Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I believe that my husband has had thousands of women.
A wife's wild exaggerations?
You say you've had 2 physical affairs.
Yes, I'm disgusted with myself.
Sorry, that doesn't come across.
Or a husband's decade of deceit?
It's not easy making love to somebody that doesn't give back.
You created the problem, so you can get off your self-righteous high horse. I'm saying what you should be saying. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I hate to see people suffering, and you've hurt long enough.
Stand by, Dr. Phil.
Roll second. Take
I'm going to get you the help that you need.
In 5, 4,
This is going to be a changing day in your life. This is a bizarre story, so complicated and convoluted that no one will even believe the extent of it. Believe it or not, that's the first line of an email sent to me by a desperate wife. Last year, Deb discovered that her husband, David, has been hiding a tangled web of lies and sexual secrets for over a decade. She now believes that he has cheated on her at least 1,000 times. Take a look.
I believe that David, my husband, has had sex with literally thousands of women. I looked at our phone bill and was quite shocked to see 300 texts a day between him and other women. I decided to take the numbers and call these women. The women told me that he had confessed that he loved them. I found numerous pictures and videos passing between him and women of a sexual nature. He was looking through the Craigslist ad for people to hook up with locally. When I asked him, he denied it, and he blamed it all on hacking. He was using Google Translator for private sex chats with women from other countries. How could I possibly ever compete with that? The women of the world and the fantasy sex. I found hookup sites, single sites, cheating sites. Several conversations were reminiscing how good the sex was. I found conversations where they were actually having sex over the computer. This one in particular really affected me. We're gonna have to cool it for a while until this blows over, if it does. Every time I bring it up, it's like, I'm sorry, I said it. Why aren't you happy now? To me, that's not an apology. I asked him if ever in 10 years of cheating and lying to me, if he ever thought once how that would make me feel. He just said no.
But all of that was just the tip of the iceberg compared to what Deb says she discovered on a secret flash drive that David kept on him at all times.
One morning, David couldn't find his flash drive. Got frantic and red in the face and was sweating, so he left for work. I went looking, found it. I plugged it into the computer and was shocked to see what I saw. A huge file, huger than huge. And it contained photos, videos, social contacts, email addresses, computer manipulations. They were encrypted. I knew exactly what the files were. He had been saving, collecting, modifying, adding to this huge file since 1996, and there he was in 2014 carrying it in his pocket.
Well, David admits he hasn't been faithful, but says Deb is exaggerating the truth and refuses to just move on and, well, just get over it.
The cheating started 7 years ago when I was introduced to Facebook. I found it to be an immense world out there. I would get friend requests from women that I didn't even know. In my mind, I saw absolutely nothing wrong with friending them, so I did. Women would say things to me that any guy would want to hear. You're good looking, your eyes are nice, wow, nice body, you work out. And then there would be a lot of sexting. The conversations, they'd get pretty heated. I would send pictures to them via text message. Kind of like the Brett Favre, Representative Weiner photographs. I was telling myself in my mind this was keeping us from arguing. In some ways, it actually made my marriage better. I probably talked to 15 women on a daily basis. I did have 2 physical relationships, 2 different women at the same time for 9 to 10 months. Part of what made all this easy is that my wife had 100% trust in me. So what would make her think I was lying? I came home one day and one of the text messages actually saved to the computer. I tried to lie my way out of it. I found out that my wife was a lot smarter than I thought. I actually believed that if you deleted something from the computer, it was gone. Silly me. Since the time she found out, I stopped cold turkey. I have deleted everything. She tends to not believe a word I'm saying right now. There are times when I think to myself, okay, it's been a year, let's move on. I'm not cheating on my wife right now.
You said he's cheated with thousands of women.
I believe that.
And what do you think about all this that she's found out here?
I'm disgusted with myself. No, I mean, I
don't, sorry, I don't, that doesn't come across in anything I've read, anything you've said, anything you're saying now. Let's be sure you know at least what he's told us. He says he's only been cheating on you for 7 years, not 11 years. So calm down, I guess, is the point. But it's 7 years versus, you really think that's a material difference in the grand scheme of things here?
No.
Okay. You say you've had 2 physical affairs, both in 2009 with coworkers.
Yes.
Okay, so out of all of these women, all of these hookups, many of them local, we'll talk about that in a minute, you're saying you've only had physical connection with 2 of them.
Yes.
And he said he had sex with them 5 or 10 times apiece. Did you know that? Did you know the detail?
No, I knew none of that.
You take a day off from work and go to a hotel and connect, right?
No, I did not know that.
You say you talked to a couple of dozen women on a daily basis.
Yeah, and they were generally the same within that whole time period.
Okay.
I didn't just add women every day.
Well, she said you've had sex affairs with thousands, with sexting, online plus physical, and that you were sending 200 to 300 texts per day to 5 or 6 women.
No, that's an extreme. I would probably send maybe 20 or 30 texts a day, probably no more than 50 a day. I can't physically imagine that I was doing hundreds a day.
Okay. You didn't tell them, some of these women didn't know you were married.
No,
right?
actually, all of them knew I was married.
Okay, you called some of the women, right?
Oh, yes, I did.
And what did they say?
Every single one that I talked to was extremely surprised that they weren't the only one. They thought they were exclusively having interactions with him.
He sometimes told them that you were mentally ill.
Yes.
What would you send them pictures of? Carefully.
Right.
I mean, we're talking intimate pictures here?
Yes.
You would, like Anthony Weiner and...
Yes.
Maybe I misunderstand that, but there's a room full of women here. If you want to get that kind of picture, raise your hand. If you say, oh, hell no, raise your hand. I was just curious. You went on Craigslist, and he looked at ads that read, I'll be on the side of the road by the highway at 4 o'clock.
I have never been on Craigslist looking for women.
I spent the last year constantly tracking him, his computer, his phone, his internet footprint.
So you've seen Craigslist on there?
Oh, yes.
How did it get on there?
We've had multiple people look at our computers. I did not do any of that.
Well, we talked to that computer expert, and you're really going to want to hear what he has to say. We'll talk about that when we come back. Let me make one thing clear so you can get off your self-righteous high horse. You created the problem with your behavior.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil.
She went from rapper to Muslim, and her mother won't accept it.
She thinks you're going to become a terrorist. You haven't seen your daughter in a year. You haven't even looked at her.
She looks nothing like my daughter.
Is this another phase she's going through?
Before you wanted to be Dutch and moved to Amsterdam and only get tulips for flowers.
Or has she found her destiny?
You think they're grooming her into a cult.
That's exactly what I believe.
That's Monday.
Well, after 11 years of lies and deceit, my guest Deb uncovered a double life that she says her husband David has been hiding. A double life she says is filled with intimate and sexual relationships with thousands of women all over the world. But there is one relationship David admitted to in his initial interview with producers that has me wondering if David is walking a very different, very fine line. Now, you're getting upset about that. Why?
Because there was not supposed to be any mention of the fact that I'm.
Why? Who'd you make that deal with?
I talked with your producers. There's not supposed to be.
Let me bring him out here. All right, this is Justin Arlock, he's senior producer here at the Dr. Phil Show. He's been with me for 13 years. What's the story here?
Never made any deal. The only thing he ever told me that he didn't want to talk about, I'm not going to mention, because you asked me not to talk about it, and Dr. Phil knows because it's in the book.
Right.
I specifically.
No. You're lying.
I'm done.
Who'd you tell that to?
To me?
Is this
I talked to him. I talked to the lady that interviewed me on Sunday.
Okay, let's get her out here too. Lindy, did you talk to him?
I did.
Did you make a deal to not talk about him being a
It
teacher?
wasn't Lindy that interviewed me at the house on Sunday.
We got the rest of them coming. Okay, Nina?
Yes.
This is Nina. She's been here forever as well. Did you make a deal with him not to talk about this?
No, we didn't make a deal.
Did he request a deal?
No.
And about being
We got
ambushed.
Nina, Lindy, and Justin here.
They think it's funny. They think it's funny.
Hey, hang on just a minute. Let me make one thing clear so you can get off your self-righteous high horse. You created the problem with your behavior. She didn't create the problem. He didn't create the problem. She didn't create the problem. She didn't create the problem. I didn't create the problem. You created the problem.
I understand that.
But don't think that glare you're giving her and this bully attitude that you've got affects me in the least, because it does not.
I understand.
Say something. My God, you've been putting up with this for this long. You're sitting there like a bump on a log. I mean, I'm saying what you should be saying.
I know that.
Well,
His apologies up until now have been, all right, I'm sorry. Why aren't you over it yet? This whole time it's been continually my problem, my fault. If you hadn't done this, if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had a reason. Why aren't you over it yet? As if it's no big deal. I'm sorry, but this is all a big deal for me, and it has been for this last year, and it's taken over my life. You have never offered me any truth until I backed you into the corner for months and months and months, and then you would admit this much. But the rest of it, oh, I made it up. I'm being hysterical, obsessed. I want to torture you for the rest of my life. I love the drama. Oh, yeah, I love the last year that we've lived together and what it's entailed of.
I don't know why anyone would think that doesn't make me proud. That doesn't make me proud at all.
why don't you look at her?
I don't think anyone could really understand how disgusted I am about what this has actually done to her. I am absolutely disgusted what this has done to my wife.
Then why do I have this creepy feeling that it's continuing? Why do I still find suspicious things that make me wonder, and I'm not allowed to bring it up? I found that new account you swore up and down you didn't have, but yet there was your name, your birthday, your picture, your preferences all set up on July 5th, 2013. You told me that was a hacker, and that's an impossibility. You're asking me, you're telling me that I'm stupid to believe what you're saying to me when you've continually lied to me over the years, over and over and over again. And I'm not supposed to believe what I see on paper that tells me otherwise.
I know that you've offered
I call it
this
the
before.
Twilight Zone theory.
I would actually take a polygraph to tell you that since this all came out in February, I have literally stopped cold turkey. The paperwork that she came out with that said I did something back in July, even something that said I did something the day before my birthday. This is stuff that was happening at 2, 3 in the morning. And you actually believed that I was getting up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and doing this stuff.
The computer said so.
I'm not making any excuses for what I've done. But I am saying right here, national TV. Since this came out in February, I've not texted anyone. I've not been on Facebook. I've not IM'd anyone.
That is
I've not
not
called
true.
anyone or emailed anyone.
Well,
He
let's
comes
take a
home-
break and find out if that's true. Next, from hacking David's emails and hiring computer experts to tracking down and calling women David has had sex talks with, Deb says her mission is to uncover the entire truth. And she says, I admit, I have become obsessed with this. It is consuming me. We'll talk about that after the break.
My wife believes there's stuff that I haven't told her yet. She thinks I still have all these accounts open. I have nothing open.
I know he's hiding something.
You've all heard me talk about Doctor on Demand, the exciting new app that my son Jay and I created that allows you within seconds to visit face-to-face with a board-certified doctor using your smartphone. Now, usually our Doctor on Demand visits cost just $40, about the cost of a copay. But we have been tracking the cold and flu outbreaks, and since Jay and I own the company, we get to make the decisions and have decided that from now until February 28th, all Doctor on Demand calls are free, instant and free. Download the Doctor on Demand app from iTunes App Store or Google Play and talk to a doctor now. And yes, it's free until February 28th.
Looking back now, I think that David would bring home women that he was having sex with to meet me. One time he brought home a girl. He said, she's my friend, I'm her mentor, and later I found out that he was having sex with her. I feel like a huge fool.
Well, Deb says she thought her marriage was perfect, but one accidental click on her home computer uncovered the world of sex and lies her husband David had been hiding for 11 years. He says, no, it was only 7. Now, Deb says she is consumed with tracking down evidence to prove David is lying and still being unfaithful. Take a look at this and we'll talk.
Trying to keep track of David has really taken over my life. I have become obsessed. I have signed up to several dating sites using a different name. Ironically, every single one I went to, I found him on. I made fake profiles so that I could keep track of him. There are multiple pictures and files and videos on his phone with a lock that he says the phone company put that on there.
She believes there's stuff that I haven't told her yet. She thinks I still have all these accounts open. I have nothing open.
I hired a computer man to come to the house and look at the computer. He confirmed my thoughts. I know he's hiding something. I found another Facebook account with his name, his birth date, his profile, his preferences.
She believes that I've actually tried to open Facebook accounts in my name. Now, come on, if I do it, I'm definitely not going to be stupid enough to do it in my name again. It's extremely frustrating. I'm trying to move forward. I just don't want to be constantly accused and constantly being told everything I've done wrong.
I fear that the last 10 years of my life have been a total joke and a lie.
Well, we actually have a statement from the computer expert because we've talked to him, and he says, quote, "This computer was not hacked. In this case, the public IP address on this client's internet connection is not registered to the customer. Rather, it is registered to the internet provider. So a hacker would have to search every customer that internet provider had to find this client. In essence, knocking on a whole lot of virtual doors before hitting pay dirt. Also, this would leave a footprint, which was not the case here. In that search, it says that you are still communicating with women. From the IT computer expert, July 15th, 2013, said the desktop PC in question shows a record of multiple occurrences of multiple communications utilizing various forms of social media, such as, but not limited to, social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Skype, YouTube, social and MySpace, Windows Live, home group file sharing, which goes on and on and on. So are they just wrong?
Yeah, they're wrong. Now, I want to know...
I mean, are they wrong? How do you know they're wrong? Because you didn't do it?
I haven't done it. I'm telling you right now, put me on a polygraph.
You are so confident in yourself, you think you can actually pass a lie detector test.
I'm telling you, I have not done any of that.
You come home on Mother's Day after crashing the old computer, which I was happy to have it out of the house. You come home on Mother's Day several months later. Happy Mother's Day, I bought you a computer. Who told you I wanted a computer? You bought it for yourself because that very night you were up all hours of the night according to the event tracking. You set it up. You called the computer me. You put my name as the name of the computer so that you could do your crap on it.
What about the other computer tech?
He gave us no report, did he?
Do you have a report from him?
I don't have a report for him.
He didn't give us a report because, like the therapist said, he covered your ass.
Dr. Phil, I'm telling you, do a polygraph, do whatever you want to do. I am not a pathological liar. I am not psychotic. I have not done any of this since this came out. And this is where the problem comes. I'm not doing it.
Well, let's take a break. Deb says her husband's affairs are symptoms of selfish and narcissistic personality that has left him unable to perform as a normal husband, that he's not interested in her now. We'll talk about that after the break.
I feel like when we do try to have sex together, that David's unable to. I think he's desensitized himself to having sex with one woman. When I asked him to give me some emotional intimacy, what I got instead was a sexual request for something so disgusting to me. I felt very disrespected and hurt. I feel like my husband's incapable of intimacy. It's easier to have random sex. David is a narcissist. I believe that's the reason why he seeks out these women. They validate him as a man.
What's your response to her opinion?
It's not easy making love to somebody that doesn't give you the feelings back.
We went through and verified women that live within 70 miles of David. And first off, he used a profile pic of the two of you.
Yes.
On his profile. And in the first example of local, female, I would never try to harm you. David, thanks. I need good friends, especially beautiful ones, extremely gorgeous. Got to take a cold shower now. Use my email address between you and I always. A long, cold shower. I think I will go back and check out your profile some more before the shower. Write a long email and tell me about yourself. I have more than words to match, a lot more than words. You do realize I'm trusting you, but I do have a lot more than words. Female 2, he says, I've actually sat there at times and just looked into your eyes. They can freeze you. It is nice to have beautiful friends. Female 3, he says, you are so beautiful. Thanks, David, I needed that. Miss you. Kisses and hugs. David, tons of kisses and hugs and much more. Those are the ones that we could show. Because you had a number that were very explicit, correct? You did that, why? Why did you do that?
I don't really think there is no justification I can give.
Do you think that you're emotionally crippled in some way?
Yeah, if you actually know a lot about my strange past, yeah.
So knowing that, which you know about, I know a fair amount about it, you know it all. It's odd to me that it wouldn't occur to you, rather than blaming her for what she's not doing and not giving me, maybe I need to look at myself and ascertain whether or not I'm failing to elicit these things from someone else.
I am seeing a counselor right now. I am seeing a therapist right now.
How's that working for you? Is it helping? Is it
Yes.
really doing a good job?
Yeah.
What have you done to show me any effort, any insight, any thoughts, any feelings. Just get over it, Debbie. You're the problem.
Then why are you still here? We're going to find out also why she is petrified to leave her husband. We're right back.
It would be very difficult to start over at my age. I feel like I've worked really hard on this relationship, and no, I don't want to give up. We have 16 animals that we love, and when I think about having to leave them behind, it's just unbearable to me.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil.
She went from rapper to Muslim, and her mother won't accept it.
You haven't seen your daughter in a year. You haven't even looked at her.
She looks nothing like my daughter.
That's Monday.
Now, before the break, I asked Deb why she is still here. You want your house and your animals.
No, that's not it.
Well, even if that is it, why would you not kick his ass to the curb? Instead of you leaving, if that's the case.
I don't have the income to keep it up, number one.
How old are you?
58.
You know, we're pretty close. And our lives aren't getting longer. They're getting shorter. There's more behind than ahead. And there comes a point where you've got to say, look, I've got to do what it takes to preserve myself, to be healthy, to be happy. I've said a million times, I would rather be happy alone than sick with somebody else. And you right now are sick with somebody else. Oh, yeah. And he cannot give you what he doesn't have. I can't diagnose him sitting here, whether he's narcissistic, has an antisocial personality, a liar, you know, whatever. I mean, you can make up your own decision, but what you know is he's not showing you any genuine remorse. He says, I'm disgusted at what I've done. And that may be the extent of his emotional range, that it's either hedonism, do what makes me feel good in the moment, or be hostile and angry. Because you've been hostile and angry since you got out here. Before you got pissed off about what you didn't want in the show, you've been hostile and angry since the minute you walked up. You're telling her, get over it. This is inconvenient for me, for you to continue to be wounded by my actions.
I don't know what to do to make her understand this will never happen again. I will get whatever help I need. I don't know where to go, and I don't know what to do. This is why I've watched your show for years. And we were sitting there one day, and I told her, I said, that's the man I want to meet. She said she wrote you that night.
Well, let me tell you what the bottom line is that I think needs to go on your to-do list. You tend to manage people by intimidation. You're a little bit of a jerk in the way you behave towards her. And so, no, she's not going to run and jump in your arms. Look, intimacy involves trust and surrender. And she ain't about to surrender to you because she doesn't trust you. You, I'd start looking for the door. I'd start figuring a way. I would start figuring a way to save myself mentally and emotionally, because your self-esteem is on the floor. Your self-worth is on the floor. You deserve better than you're getting. Stand up and command respect. And you can't do that if you don't get some help. And I will get you some help with that. I will get you some very specific help with finding yourself again. Next, she spends every day desperately searching online, obsessed with finding a diagnosis for life-threatening diseases and terminal illnesses she knows she doesn't have. We'll meet her after the break.
I wake up every day with anxiety about the thought of being ill. I don't discuss this with anyone because I don't want people to think that girl's a lunatic, because I'm not.
My next guest, Britannia, spends countless hours on the internet obsessively looking up symptoms and diagnosing herself with various illnesses from throat cancer to a brain aneurysm. Now, she's convinced herself that she has had every disorder in the book, including MS, liver disease, and a heart attack, yet has never gone to a doctor for diagnosis. Take a look.
I wake up every day with anxiety about the thought of being ill. I don't ever feel like I'm fine. I always feel like there's gonna be something wrong with me. I always think to myself, is today your last day? If I'm having symptoms, I'll go on the internet, through my phone, my laptop. I mean, I can spend an hour to 2 hours looking it up. It's always at my fingertips, so I look it up anytime I have spare time. I've been stopped in traffic and looked through my phone just to get a quick question in. 2 weeks ago, I itched my neck and then I felt something. I was definitely sure it was throat cancer. I looked a lump on side of neck. The other morning I woke up, these 3 fingers were all like numb and tingly. I panicked. I told my fiance, this is a heart attack, and he's like, I doubt you're gonna have a heart attack. Then I thought, that's symptoms of MS. I also self-diagnosed myself with brain aneurysm, brain cancer, breast cancer, liver and kidney damage, tonsil cancer, gum cancer. Everything that's around this area has probably had cancer in my head at one point or another. I can't tell if it's just the anxiety that's making it worse or if the actual symptoms getting worse. I don't discuss this with anyone because I don't want people to think that girl's a lunatic, because I'm not.
Well, I have some good news.
Okay.
You're not a lunatic.
Awesome. That's good to know.
You're not crazy. You don't have some kind of psychosis. But what do you think when you see all of that on tape? You're kind of watching your life encapsulated. What do you think?
It's ridiculous, honestly. I can't even believe that I'm actually saying that because I'm not sick. But when I'm by myself and stressed out, that's when it seems real.
Okay, so do you consider yourself highly suggestible?
Absolutely. I can buy into that. If anything new comes out, and like the flu season is coming around, and if it's worse and I hear on the news all the symptoms and it's really bad this year, then I'm like, oh my God, and I start being afraid of the symptoms where I think sometimes I actually have the symptoms.
Here are the things that you've diagnosed yourself with. Brain cancer, throat cancer, oral cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, kidney failure, liver failure, multiple sclerosis, brain tumor aneurysm, heart attack, ulcer, breast cancer, and gum cancer. So if all of that were true, your head would fall off.
Yes. I know. It sounds
right here,
so
right?
silly. And that's what's frustrating is I don't understand why I'm so afraid of unrealistic stuff.
But if you really believe it, why not go to a doctor?
I just figure if I walk into a doctor's office, it's going to be bad news.
Well, Britannia spent a lot of time at the doctor's office when she was younger, and she actually was diagnosed with a chronic illness. Now, Britannia's father, Kyle, had no idea this was just the beginning of her many health issues. Take a look.
When Britannia was about 7, she started experiencing pains in her knee. We were going to the doctor for close to a year before they finally were able to diagnose what the actual problem was.
I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and at that age, you don't understand the seriousness of illnesses.
She was getting so many blood tests and different treatment plans. It was not enjoyable to watch your daughter become a human pincushion. The situation was upsetting because it took much longer than what I was anticipating.
I took medication until I was about 16, and then around 22, I started getting pain in my back and my neck. They tested me for a different arthritis that is called ankylosing spondylitis, and they confirmed I had the gene. I now have a new arthritis that will never go away.
Well, I wanted some reinforcement. So joining us to talk about people that experience what Britannia has, who fall into the trap of this internet-fueled hypochondria, also called cyberchondria, is our really good friend, Dr. Frida Lewis Hall. She's the Chief Medical Officer of Pfizer. So please welcome Dr. Frida.
Okay.
So you've been listening. What do you think's going on here?
Well, let me start by saying this puts me in mind of many years ago when I was in medical school. We used to call our syndrome the medical student syndrome. Literally, we had everything in the book, and I mean the book, because it was pre-internet. And so it's not unusual, especially for someone like you, Britannia, that's had a childhood history of an illness, to be really vigilant about all the things that are happening with your body. The problem then becomes that you've got this vast internet and all this information that reinforces you, and it's never going to tell you the good stuff or the easy to fix stuff, or it's
scary stuff.
Don't worry, sweetie, it's nothing stuff, right? So everything is going to be amplified.
Now, Britannia's father, Kyle, is here in the audience. And Kyle, what worries you most about what's going on with her?
What's real that bothers me and scares me is the stress she goes through, because she's freaking out. And so that stress level, I know it can't be healthy for her.
Now, is the stress level something that's kind of all the time, or do you mean when she starts thinking she's got a disease?
It's daily that she thinks she has something.
So
it's on a daily basis, yeah.
So it's yes to both questions.
It may not be 24 hours a day, but when we're on the phone, it takes a good 15, 20 minutes to calm her down. And I know she's been stressed before she calls me.
Now, I guess one of my questions, though, is whether or not you have a healthcare team that can help you sort through this. I know you went to the doctor a lot when you were younger, but how about now?
No, I don't now. I haven't been to the doctors for about 5 years, maybe, when I was diagnosed with AS, and I haven't been back since. I tried to avoid it at all costs.
One of the things that can be helpful to you and to other people who are going through this is to make sure that you have a healthcare team that can help you with a baseline. So you want to make sure that you have a full team, your primary care physician, specialist if you think you need them, a nutritionist, whoever you need. Take everything that you know about you to them, your medical history, all these symptoms that you have, take it all together in a digestible form and let them give you a baseline. What would also help then is they can put a monitoring plan in place for you. These symptoms might be related to your ankylosing spondylitis, the lump in your neck, difficulty breathing. Those things are not uncommon, and you can tell us about them when you see us next. These things we might worry about, give us a call if they happen. These things, if they happen, call us right away. That may help you sort through some of the things that you look at.
Yeah, everything I come across online, they say, if you experience this, go to the next urgent care immediately. And I'm just like, if that were the case, I'd be there every day, So.
Up next, I have a few more things to share with Britannia, including what I think is the real reason lying behind her constant need to symptom surf and self-diagnose, and more from Dr. Frieda. We'll be right back. Struggling through tough times? Visit drphil.com for 11 seasons of advice on parenting, relationships, finances, and more. Plus, you can share your stories and find support in the Dr. Phil community. If you want more, you have to require more from yourself. So log on to drphil.com and get started today. Now, Britannia says she's living in a constant nightmare and wants help managing her addiction, and it kind of is, at least obsessive behavior, to searching the internet for illnesses that she really doesn't have. Now, look, Dr. Frieda has some things she wants to say in a second, but what I want to say to you is this. I'm a real big one that you have to deal with things in the appropriate way. You deal with psychological things psychologically. You deal with medical things medically. You deal with nutritional things nutritionally. Where you start crossing over sometimes is where you can get in trouble. If you are experiencing anxiety, for example, stress and anxiety, and your father says that you get really tense, and you said that's when you are the worst about this. You start stressing about it. So you have to start dealing with what's underlying the stress and the anxiety. You've got to pick up a skill set, not just an anxiety pill, but a skill set for coping with stress in your day, managing your anxiety going forward, and doing some of the things that will lessen that, which will make you much less likely to go into this. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Doc, what do you think here?
The idea of using the internet, which can be very enabling to people, it can also be, in your case, very disabling. So there may be some things that you can do just around these internet searches that would help. So for starters, identify a few really trusted websites that you would start your search with. The CDC site, the Center for Disease Control, or the National Institutes of Health. Get started with those. These are credible sites that you can learn to trust. Set some limits about how much time or how many sites you're actually going to search on. You want to make sure that you say, I'm only going to do 3 sites, or I'm only going to do 15 minutes. Then maybe you could enlist someone to help you. You also want to make sure if you want information about medications that you go to the FDA's website or to the manufacturer's website for the most complete information. And then, of course, last and absolutely not least is you want to make sure that even if you start with the internet, you don't stop with the internet. That you make sure that you confirm these or get objective help for someone else who knows. So you can start with the internet, but don't stop there. Always get help. And of course, if you want more information on cyberchondria or you want to get more information on other health topics, you can go to gethealthystayhealthy.com.
Okay.
It's another place for some good information.
Yeah, and you said something to me earlier that I thought was a really, really good idea, and that was to make a list of your symptoms before you start the search, so you don't add to it just based on what you read.
That's a big problem.
And what you said is that you do get caught up in that. So you say, I'm going to check for a headache, and they say, well, what if you also have blurred vision? And you were thinking, now that I think about it, I think my vision was blurred. So you want to, so you want to write down everything that you think you have. That way you don't get sucked into that doom loop of, oh, yes, I have that. Oh, no, and I have that, and I have that too.
What I want to do is follow Dr. Frieda's suggestions and start putting together a healthcare team for you. I want to get you someone that will specialize in giving you some specific skills for handling stress and anxiety. I want to start with that and then build on it from that point, because I think when you learn how to recognize, monitor, and alleviate those, things are going to get a whole lot better. So I'm going to make that just our gift to you, and we'll start with that arrangement. So, Dr. Frieda, thank you for being here.
As always, a pleasure. As always, thank you.
And once again, thanks to Pfizer for taking the time to educate people about stuff like this. For more information on today's show, you can visit drphil.com. And say the website one more time.
GetHealthyStayHealthy.com.
GetHealthyStayHealthy.com. 2 great places to go. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.